Hi, I'm Rebecca, and I'm here on the channel teaching myself how to play the violin again after walking away from music 25 years ago. During the last couple of weeks on the channel, I've been working on a revision of a piece by Tchaikovsky. This is a big deal, and not just because of the music. It's a big deal because I came from a place where children were told all the things they could not do, and for someone like me, composing music was definitely one of those things. I'll tell you about what that meant to me. Let's step back in time to a place 30 years ago. The day I received a call about a job as a classical music critic, I had already left everything behind. The week before, I had driven across 1,000 miles of desert in a broken down Ford on my way to a 3-month internship at a newspaper in California. On my first day in the office, I got a phone call from an editor at a large East Coast newspaper. He said they had an opening for a classical music critic, and that a professor at my journalism school had recommended me. I thought, but I just got here. I looked around that rundown California newsroom with its musty smell and its thinning carpet, and I considered two things. The fact that I had no cash and no bank account, and the response of my college violin teacher when I had asked her if I should consider writing about classical music. No, she said. She explained that I wasn't qualified. You don't have the background in the symphonic literature, she said. Well, I thought, if she said so, then she must be right. She must absolutely be right. On the phone call, I thought about all that. I thanked the editor for calling. I told him I had just gotten to California and wasn't able to move again. And then I proceeded to spend years spinning my wheels in the news business, struggling to find financial security that would never come. More than 30 years later, in the course of my latest struggle to put my skills to work, this time by playing the violin on YouTube, I was lurching my way through a waltz by Tchaikovsky. The piece wasn't working. I was playing the first violin part of the waltz from Swan Lake, a part that was meant to be played with a full orchestra. Some phrases rang, others stalled. It wasn't working as a solo piece, but I still wanted to play it. I thought, I could patch something together. I've got scissors, I've got a glue stick. Let's see what we could do. But I hesitated. After all, I don't have training in music theory. I don't have training in composition. I'm not qualified to slice up the work of the masters. It would feel like penning a sermon when you're not ordained to preach. Oh, wait a minute, I thought. It's only YouTube. I got out the scissors. 1 week after I started cutting up the work of the master, I was wrist deep in scraps of scores. I had printed out the first violin part several times, followed by the second violin part, and yes, the trombone part. You see, the transition to the ending was all in the trombone part, and if only I could play what the trombones were playing, then I could make the whole piece work. I just knew I could. But no, the trombone is written in bass clef. It's a different language. I used to read bass clef. I could transpose. Surely I could. I scratched out a staff and wrote a line of notes. Not in the delicate, light hand you see in the scores of Mozart. No, they were big, heavy notes on that staff. So big you could hardly tell where they were supposed to land. I watched my family finish dinner while they tried to ignore the frantic cutting and ripping up of pages. Finally, I called off the whole enterprise while trying and failing to transpose the trombone part. When I think about the crossroads in my career and the routes not taken, generally I don't jump to the story about the music critic job. It's a footnote. Most likely it's a choice that would have been disastrous even if it had gone well. In this case, my instinct paid off. I started working as a reporter at the peak of the newspaper industry, right before the money men swept in and gutted the product in every corner of America. Classical music critics were the first group to fall. But as a general assignment reporter who spent my first summer and many subsequent summers chasing shootings, stabbings, murders, robberies, real estate crashes, natural disasters, I outlasted many a music writer. If, on that first day of my internship, I had had a bank account and flexibility, would I have considered a prestigious job with a big paper on the other side of the country? It's clear that my decision not to pursue that job, and indeed every career decision I ever made, was shaped by my perception of what someone who has no money can and cannot do. We had a belief in America when I started my career that anyone could succeed, regardless of background. I'm not sure I ever believed it, and that's good, because in a society where you have to have money to make money, success is impossible for some. When I think back, I can hear the words of my star-making violin teacher. She said, "I could have sent you to Juilliard." I thought, no, no, you couldn't. With your uniform staff, your mansion with its gleaming wood banisters, you showed me a life that would always be out of reach for someone like me. I thought of my college violin teacher. "You don't have the background in the symphonic literature," she said. "You can't write about music." Maybe not. Nonetheless, by the time I graduated from college, I had spent 10 years playing the symphonic literature. In truth, I would have been as qualified to write about classical music as anyone in the newspaper business. I thought about a hiring editor in a high-priced city during a job interview. He said, "These jobs pay in the 30,000 range. Would that be a problem for you?" Yes, I said, yes, it would. I was not the class of person who could cover my own rent. I could not consider that job. The story of Swan Lake is a parable about power, betrayal, and transformation. A prince named Siegfried falls in love with the Swan Queen, a woman named Odette. She's been cursed to live as a swan during the daytime, but transforms into a woman at night. The prince attempts to break the curse, but he fails. In the end, they throw themselves into the lake, and their spirits take flight together in the afterlife, the only place where they can be together. The story is about transformation, and in my view, the view of a child who came from nothing, the impossibility of transformation. I did not become a violinist, and I did not become a classical music critic. To be fair, it wasn't just about the money I didn't have. Sure, it was daunting as a teen to compete against people who played instruments that cost 10,000 times more than mine. However, if anything, that disparity gave me confidence. Why? Well, I'll tell you the truth of it. I was still beating them in competition. Deep down, it left me to wonder, where's the challenge in that? If I could beat people who had the money to buy violins that vastly outclass mine, where's the challenge? Also, already by the time I was 21, I was refusing to play Handel's Messiah because I had played it so many times. If I had become a violinist, how would I have felt about Beethoven's Sixth by the time I was 30? The time would have come that I no longer wanted to play music. I knew that. I would have wanted to write music, not write about music. But you see, writing music was impossible for someone like me. Someone would have always told me that I didn't have the background for composition, that I didn't pursue the right line of study, that I didn't go to the right schools. Even if I could have tolerated the financial hardships of graduate school, someone I respected would have tossed out some compelling reason why I could not compose music, and I would have believed it. Those ragtag measures of music that I wrote for Swan Lake, I kept them out on the coffee table for weeks so I could see them. In the end, I did not play a single note of that section. The transition didn't make it into the final version. Yet I'm strangely attached to that little scrap of composition. It represents the joy of reaching a time of life when, irrespective of money, irrespective of training, I can write whatever I want.